Hey y'all, as you could tell from the title, I've always wanted to make a video sort of explaining my thought process when it comes to creating. The truth is, ever since my last full level, I have no idea what I want to make anymore. It's not that I have a lack of motivation, it's just I have too many ideas that are too tedious to make really. As for what I have built in the recent past, I guess I'll start off by explaining how I even start. Basically, I'm just sitting there listening to whatever when I come across a song that has GD level potential, if that's what you want to call it, I guess. What I mean by that is, since I've had the game for so long, I tend to imagine levels when I listen to the music. Honestly, it's a habit that I want to get rid of. If only I could translate whatever I'm listening to onto the editor. That's what we all wish, but no, no, things don't work like that. Surprisingly, unlike others who may take inspiration from other creators, I get inspired by real life things. I guess the most inspiration I get is from other video games or real life architecture. Mostly, actually, take my inspiration from ah, nature, I guess. I'm a realism kind of guy. I like to. I've noticed like every time I even before I even started like GD, I used to draw, and most of my drawings like involve real life mountains, like forest stuff like that. I would not that I was ever good at that. I just tend to draw that stuff. Um, yeah, for video games, usually the more artistic ones I love. Like you'll see like a bit of Hollow Knight in my. You'll see a bit of inspiration taken from that game. Like it has so many areas and potential that just want to show y'all. Anyway, I'll just show y'all what I mean. Some of my levels, like for example, Prowling Deaths. All right, so first thing that I originally thought of when hearing the song is sewers. I thought it was like, you know what, let me make a sewer level. Funnily enough, at the time I was actually change like fixing a leak, so I was like, hey, why not make a sewer level? Anyway, um, as you saw in the picture, it was mostly green, bluish, so try to replicate that vibe. So as for the sewers itself, you could see that in the background, I added like pillars that seem to be a bit forward from the other background part. That's thank you, Glow, for doing that, for helping me do that. And for Glow, I actually like black Glow. People complain that like there's oversaturation of Glow, and I understand that. So I lower the opacity on that. Um, got the sewer water and the fog. Most importantly, the fog is and here I know how important fog is when going through the sewers. Like stereotypically, there's fog and there's fog in each part. Like here, I'm struggling to find the fog, but I know for a fact I added fog in the underground area too. Anyway, but yeah, mainly the whole point of the first part was to give off the vibe that you've entered the sewers. So yeah, fun fact: the underground part was the deleted sewer part because I changed the theme. Anyway, here you can see that a big part of this part that makes it better is you see how like the block design is really standard. So I added an extra layer on top, and you can see that like it's been lowered down opacity. But what it does is like, and it gives off the effect that the whole blocks are cracked as sewers are old and not really maintained. So you can see if I upper the opacity, you can see all those little cracks and the details on it, but I like to keep things subtle and not overbearing. So I lowered it down to 20, of course. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's all I could really say about that part. Now on to the next part. So this part is actually inspired by Hollow Knight, the Royal Waterways. As we can tell, see just like all the details in the Royal Waterways. I sort of copied some aspects of it, like the pipes, the black pipes in the front. There's the block design especially. I kind of didn't do a good job in the block design. It's a bit messy, but basically it's like black and it has those little blue outlines. They give it like a royal style. Now the rocks, the blue rocks that are covered by the things, I'm the kind of person to use Rob Top made blocks for their intended purpose. So if it looks like rocks, then I'll use it for a lot of rocks, of course. The poison water there, I didn't give it an outline because it's not. It's like it's not the main focus of the part. So we got the saws too. Um, I don't know. I just slapped whatever I thought fit with the theme in there. I used a pointy saw. I mean, it really felt like I don't know. Those saws always gave me Hollow Knight vibes. As you can see, the next part is based on the Abyss. So you're going to see a few things from there. Like first of all, the biggest yes moment was when I copied, well, not really copied, more like inspired the ground spikes from there. There, there's a bunch of dead insects on the ground crawling around. That's what I did. Like throughout the parts, there's two layers of bugs, and I added a move trigger that makes them bounce up and down, makes the part feel more alive. Um, I don't have that much movement in this level usually, but I like adding subtle things that add to the theme. That's like the whole essence of themes. Now like for example, the woods here. I am added two different like, as you can see, I made it less bright, like two different brightnesses of wood that are layered on top of each other. As you would find in underground mines, which is this part is clearly based off of. I like the wood. Honestly, like Jaco's Tokyo Nights, there's that one part that's like wood, and I was like, this should be done more. So, kind of inspired it from there. But yeah, um, so we have the rocks, and I felt like this part, like most rock top blocks, it felt really cartoony to me. So, I did like a dark and a bright cartoony outline to it. So the next part is the underwater. The first thing that I want to point out is the coral-like things that I added there that I'm highlighting right now. So those objects that you see, like the web-like objects, have tons of potential for underwater stuff. Like you can color them. You can see how the corals change over time. I don't know. I just thought that's kind of a neat thing that I wanted to do. So you have the big red corals and you have the smaller color changing color corals. And obviously have the glow that makes sure that the player can tell what the blocks that kill you are. Well, it makes it easier because I inspired this part from Xylinox, and you can see like the green part, the moss. Like I was like, I never really seen those spikes used for moss, so I kind of sort of did it. There's that random sawtooth. I honestly have no idea what I was going for there. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I just kind of copied Zonox factory style. I guess this part I have no idea what to build, so I just sort of built my thing. Wooden outlines. I'll be honest with you, like I'm happier with this part than the other parts, and I just kind of YOLO'd it. I wasn't really sure what I was doing. So I was for the next part. You have this part that's like inspired by a lava rock, or real life lava and rocks. So that's what you would find in real life. Like I said before in the beginning of the video, that I like realism. Of course, copy pasting is like well, I don't see why people are complaining about copy paste. Like it's a good thing, really, because that's all you would find our IRL. So those rocks, I made them look as realistic as possible. See, so there's the entire web of lava, like at the very bottom layer, which are being mostly covered by the rocks themselves. So it looks like there's lava underneath the rocks or inside. But another gimmick that I found out was that I actually forgot to add don't fade, don't enter to the rest of the layers, except the layer. Like as you can see, all of that doesn't have don't fade, don't enter. And what that does, basically it does fade, and it does fade as it enters and leaves the screen. So that goes away. So you don't see it anymore. It turns invisible as it's leaving. But as you go to the other um, layer, you can see that or everything, you know, But this does have don't fade, don't enter, so like it stays put. So if I play the level, you could see that the effect there, how it's working. Here I'm trying to put a you know start position there, and oh well, as for the gameplay there, I really don't know. I think this is one of my weaker levels in terms of gameplay. You know, so yeah, there I am trying to figure out what speed it was. You can see how like the weird slopes, you can't see slopes, and I think that's a big no-no for me. But yeah, you can see the sides of the screens, how everything, all the other objects are disappearing except like the lava web thing, sort of type thing. So yeah, that gives the effect, and that's sort of how I did it. Fun fact, I mean, that was an accident, and that really adds to the level's theme, so, or the part, sorry. So the next thing, I added a few subtle details in the lava, but now that I'm looking back on it, like it's just sort of things that waste objects might make it less, or make it more like, the arrows, I should have made them yellow to contrast the background. But you know what? Those are just things that I learn. And over time, like the rocks change from brown to red, just as glowing rocks would if they're being filled with lava. And see, if you go back to the beginning, what makes this whole level fit is the song. If you listen to the song, you can hear like water. Well, personally, I can hear water flowing, and that like makes the whole part work. Anyway, um, so this is another part in a different level, the ascent. Basically, which is like what the prequel to the Crawling Deaths. Haha, funny. So you could see my thought process like back then. Like I had layer. This part in particular, I wanted to show because I'm actually going to recycle this part with a new one. Um, this was based off of an ice cave, and so here's the ice cave. Um, I wanted to. I noticed how like everything's jagged, and in a collab that I was part of recently, like this is like the last thing I made. You could see how like I tried replicating the texture of the ice, but it ended up looking messy. Like some parts were darker, some parts were brighter. And I figured I could do that with dark glow and layering, blending objects. It just ended up looking messy, but that's sort of what I was going for now. This is the actual part that I made. It's a lot like you could see how I borrowed from the previous parts, my previous like thing that I've made, and I sort of turned it into a new thing. But what makes this better than the before? Well, for one, I had someone else working on it with me. Well, I was working on it, but I was like getting feedback from someone else, and I don't, well, okay, there you see the subtle glow in the background again. There's glow in the block design. But yeah, they were sort of like guiding me and telling me what to change. But one thing's for sure, if I used to like overuse glow as I'm guilty like other creators are, but like see here, I don't like using glow that's overbearing anymore. Like you don't really notice it as much. I don't like doing that anymore because it just you can't see. But in this level, you can see. Like I had it like the rocks in the block design. I reused them for the background or some parts of the background, and see you see how like I have the same exact layered rocks in the background. Something new that I don't like. I actually hate doing this. I hate adding lasers to my level. They're stupid, just like background flashes or foreground flashes. But like, well, honestly, I get okay. It's a collab, so obviously you're going to have to use lasers or whatever. But this is a freak. Like you can see how like the colors are slightly changed on the lasers in the background or whatever, to give it more of an aurora color. But I don't like it because ice caves in real life don't have lasers flashing at you. It's a pet peeve that I have with levels. So here it is, like the ground spikes open up. I like the ground spikes actually. Like, it gives a jagged feel to the whole part. Like the whole point of ice is to be jagged. It's icy, right? I sort of recycled this the gears from Pelling Deaths. Anyway, the best example I can give when I say that I don't build parts in order is this level actually. My previous level, full level. So this one, I was sitting in a car road trip one day. I was like, hey, what if I create like a little fun, cute, animated effect if I do 2 layers of lines instead of one? So I built this the entire level. So I started from the drop, which is basically the main part, and I went to the end, and then I went to the beginning, which is why this level really sucks. So you see, if you see that mesh, it's actually taken from Water Flame's Radio Cutter, which is like why I use a song. There was a background. I just sort of filled whatever I wanted to in there. So yeah, I'm kind of speeding through these because I don't want to spend too much time, but I when I don't theme levels, I end up ditching them. This is the best example because I don't know. I just don't find it good. I like what I was going for here. Like the entire basis of this level, I guess the theme of it was no theme, but that I don't like doing that because I just do throwing random stuff in it, and then ends up looking messy. As for this level, um, it was my first attempt at building something that conforms to the standards, and I hated it. This is supposed to be the first sequel to what's Ecstatic Fantasies, that level, I just don't like it because if it looks like this, like generic, standard, whatever the decoration, then obviously the people playing it are not going to pay attention to the details. And honestly, like I want the players to actually pay attention to what's like the nitpicky details. And the glow in the blocks, I don't like it. I really don't like it. Basic ground design, air deco, whatever. I just hate it. I hate it so much. Um, because no matter what kind of designs and details you use, it's going to end up looking the same. Honestly, like people are like, "Oh, you copy this, you copy that. Oh, it looks original." No, it looks exactly the same as everything else. All right, last point I want to touch up on is optimizing levels. This is something I started and never finished because I really just didn't think it was good enough. Like, come on, you see all that going on? Ugh, no. What gameplay is that? So first of all, I mean background. I just sort of made one background and then I made it follow you throughout the level so you don't waste more objects. That's like 2,000 right there. But the main point I want to touch up on is like, those things moving up and down, the platforms, which is like the main gimmick of this part. Um, some people would do is like make a bunch of platforms and make it move down, down, down. No, I recycle platforms instead. I use collision blocks to that top one and that bottom one checks to see like those are the limits of those blocks in the middle. And you can see if you were to follow one of the little collision thingies, this is why it's important to learn stuff in the editor because you can do stuff like this. Like you could save a bunch of objects, even though it might not run as good. But if you play it, you can. If you look in the editor, you can like follow like one platform, like say that one. You can see how it once it reaches the top point, it teleports down to the bottom and reuses. But if you're the player, you're not going to notice that. You're going to think that oh, well, it's going in a circle or something or whatever. Sort of did whatever other gimmicks. See, this level is just a gameplay gimmick level. It's not really supposed to be visually pleasing, even though, which is no, that is why I quit building on this level because uh, I wasn't trying to make it visually pleasing, and yeah, that's sort of the consequence of that. So yeah, I kind of stopped working on it. I gave it away. I just, moral of the story is I like knowing that my details are good. Knowing that they look good and they're not just slapped together because I'm no. Really the focus of a level in my opinion should be how engaging is the gameplay and if it's engaging, if that's the main point of it, don't let the details of it, the deco look trash because it's gonna make the level trash, believe it or not. Learn that the hard way, I guess. insane because some of these levels, the most recent ones I showed are just sort of ones that I feel bad for not wanting to work on them anymore, and that's okay. If you don't feel bad if you feel the need to ditch your levels, usually that they don't work out if you start working on them. And I just sort of found out that like some of my older levels actually, I felt forced to finish them, and I did, and it's just not the way I expected them to be. Um, Example is Brave New World. I started building it. I watched the drop. I built one part. I was like, yeah, this is great. But then I was like, what do I do now? So I built parts, and no, they don't fit well together. But there was still a theme in there, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? Whatever. But yeah, that's sort of my process. Thanks for sticking with me on this. I hope you learned something about me or whatever. So yeah, see ya.